guest of honor is our last year's distinguished Africanist, Professor Steve Howard, and also Ms. Asma Taha. It is a great honor to have both of you here. Marhaban. Yeah, welcome. Yeah. So we'd like to welcome you to the podium to say a few words about this new award. Please, Steve, we would like to introduce Ms. Taha. Yes, sir.
I'll stand here. My major function here this evening is to introduce my sister Asma Mahmoud. But I first wanted to say, as long as I did have the microphone in my hand, that this war in Sudan needs to stop. This is this rivalry that grew out of the 30 plus miserable years with Omar al-Bashir, his sons, in effect, now jealously fighting with one another and destroying Sudan in the process. I was reading the other day about one of the tea ladies who got bombed by these strifes striking everywhere in the country. So millions of people have been displaced and thousands have been killed, and the war in Sudan badly needs attention. But as I said, my main purpose tonight is to welcome Asma Mahmoud Mohamed Taha, who very graciously agreed to come across the continent to talk to us a little bit tonight about her father, who I've named this scholarship after. And Mahmoud Mohamed Taha, Ustaz Mahmoud, is very well represented by his daughter today, and she, in her own right, is very much one of my important heroes. She was one of Sudan's very first political prisoners, and during the Bashir years, she, I'm not sure how many times she was in detention, and she just won't quit in terms of standing up for women's rights and human rights and people's rights and a democratic Sudan. This is a country who's been independent since 1956 and has had only about 6 years of any kind of semblance of democratic rule. So Asma Mahmoud Mohamed Taha has stood for the values of her father for many, many years now and speaks eloquently about them. And let me turn this over to her and let her tell you about the man that we're honoring with this travel scholarship for students. Asma Mahmoud Mohamed Taha.
Good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning, I would like to thank the organizers of this event for giving me the opportunity to address this distinguished gathering. And I would like to give special thanks to Professor Howard, who contributed a great deal to bringing the attention of Western academia at large of the legacy of my late father, Mahmoud Mohamed Taha, 1909-1985. During his work at Ohio University, Professor Howard has been a recruiter and a constant supporter of African students who attended Ohio University. Today, I feel tremendously honored to be given the opportunity to give this short speech on the life, thought, and heroic activism of my late father, Mahmoud Mohamed Taha, who was executed in January 1985 in Sudan for his vision and thoughts on Islamic reform. He was tried and executed on basis of the long-forgotten medieval charge of apostasy, as well as charge of sedition. The Muslim clergy justices who sentenced him offered him a chance 3 days to avoid death, but by recanting his ideas publicly, but he refused and faced death with heroic and legendary courage. My father was one of the early educated Sudanese who attended Gordon Memorial College in Khartoum during the British colonial rule that lasted from 1898 to 1956. Gordon Memorial College's early graduates are the ones who led in Sudan the struggle against the British rule after forming the Graduates' Congress in 1938. The struggle continued until Sudan achieved its independence in 1956. During the resistance against the British colonial rule and in preparation for the upcoming era of a national independent Sudanese democratic government, my father founded his party, to which he gave the name the Republican Party. The name was given to the party because the party was advocating for the independence of Sudan from both the British and the Egyptian, who jointly ruled the country for more than a half century. The party took this name because on the other side of the political arena, there are other Sudanese parties advocating the annexation of Sudan after its independence to Egypt. At that time, Egypt was under a monarchy rule. During his resistance to British rule, my father was imprisoned twice. These two terms of imprisonment for resisting the British colonial rule took places in the second half of the 19th century. While he was in prison, he practiced worship and meditation according to Islamic Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Immediately after his release from his second imprisonment in 1948, he started a self-imposed period of seclusion, prayer, and fasting at his hometown, Rufa'a. He ended that self-imposed seclusion in 1951 and started to disseminate his ideas of Islamic reform through pamphlets, books, and public lectures. He advocated nonviolence and change through peaceful means, constitutional democracy, freedom of speech, and non-discriminatory laws that grants equality to women and non-Muslims. Moreover, he advocated working towards the establishment of a social democracy in Sudan. He continued carrying these endeavors for more than 3 decades, during which he remained under fierce attacks from traditional Islamic institutions in Sudan, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. He also notably advocated for all of his followers, particularly women, to study, earn degrees, and see the world. In 1985, my father protested the imposition of Islamic Sharia laws in Sudan by President Jafar al-Nimeri, an act that led to his arrest, trial, and execution. That sad series of events took place despite the fact that my father was a pacifist who advocated change through peaceful means. My father kept relentlessly warning the Sudanese people, the Islamic world, and the world at large that without Islamic reform, the entire world will face great danger from Islamic militancy of Salafism and political Islam that still embrace traditional Islamic doctrine of forcing one's religious belief on others. In 1989, the National Islamic Front in Sudan seized power through a military coup. 7 years after, in 1996, the Salafi militants of Taliban captured Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan. 5 years after, the September 11th attack on the World Trade Center in New York occurred. Then, after the US invasion of Iraq in 2003, a wide wave of terrorism conducted by the terrorist groups Daesh swept the Fertile Crescent area in Iraq and Syria. To this very day, the dangers of the unreformed version of Islam are still unfolding. The latest of these disasters caused by political Islam is the ongoing war in my native country of Sudan that almost demolished the capital Khartoum and turned about 6 million of the population to refugees. Today, after 30 years since my father's execution, here I am to represent my family in attending this ceremony in which Mahmoud Mohamed Taha Student Travel Award became a reality. My personal thanks and my father's thanks, as well as the thanks of all those who cherish my father's legacy, goes to the African Studies Association for hosting this event. And again, a very special thanks to Steve Howard, who, by a generous gift from him, made this award in my late father's name possible. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Yeah, this is very This is an amazing, amazing, shukran, shukran. Thank you so much. And thank you, Professor Steve Howard. Thank you for your generosity to the African Studies students and to our entire communities. And thank you for bringing us together across continents and nations and languages and cultures. Thank you.